News Talk 94.5, WPTI, 96.7 FM, WTOB. You're listening to the Wealth Guardian Show with Doug Ray, helping you retire the job and keep the paycheck. In the studio this morning, you have Garrett Ray and Brice Payne. And this morning, we are talking about transforming your money mindset in 30 days, taking some negative thoughts we have about money and turning that frown upside down. Good morning, Brice. How you doing?
Good morning, Garrett. I'm doing well. Looking forward to spring. How about you?
I am very much looking forward to spring. It's been cold. It's been ridiculously rainy. I'm ready for the season change. I'm there.
All right. Very good. Well, hopefully by the time we do the show next time, it'll be a little bit warmer than what we had this week, for Pete's sake.
Warmer than last time.
Yes, exactly. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started here. What do we always do at the beginning of the show? The Wealth Guardian Service Salute. We want to thank everybody out there who's a first responder or somebody who puts on the military uniform, whichever uniform that might be. We want to just take a minute and acknowledge the sacrifices and everything that you do for our country and your families as well. We know sometimes it's a thankless job, but we just want to make you aware that we are thinking of you here at the Wealth Guardian. So thank you for that. And Garrett, you've got the Better Get to Know Your Wealth Guardian's Financial Planner question for us this week.
Yeah, so one thing that I was thinking about that could be interesting for the listeners to know is, what was your favorite childhood sport or hobby? I'll go first. When I was a little guy, I'd say between the ages of 5 to 11 or 12 is probably when it fell off. I was really into basketball. It's at the time, family was living down in the Charlotte area. The Charlotte Hornets were a relatively new NBA team. They were all the rage. My heroes were Larry Johnson, Alonzo Mourning.
Alonzo.
Yep, all those guys. And that was kind of in the Jordan era of NBA anyway. So basketball was huge, just not only with myself and friends. And, I was a pretty athletic little kid and relatively tall for my age group at the time. So I was doing pretty decent. And then when every kind of boy goes through that first middle school growth spurt, I quickly learned that my physical capabilities were not keeping up with my peers. So basketball kind of faded as my height never kept up with.
Yeah, if you tap out at 6 foot, or what are you, 6'1"? Yeah, then that's not going to be the sport for you.
I learned that pretty closely by about 8th grade. This is not going to happen. So, but I really enjoyed it, and just very good childhood memories of just basketball in general.
There you go. Okay. Well, I was not a particularly large or powerful strength person, but I was speedy. And that speed could translate onto my bicycle. So I was a BMX motocross competitor early on.
Oh, cool.
I tapped out of that somewhere in early high school. But before that, I loved racing the motocross bikes. Yep.
See, not only do the listeners get to learn stuff about the advisors, but even the other advisors get to know new stuff about the other.
We didn't know that about each other. All right. Well, let's go ahead. What are we talking about here? We're talking about transforming your money mindset in 30 days. There's a lot of things that we will notice as holistic financial planners here at the Wealth Guardians, that a mindset that somebody will come in and sit down with us, that they might need a little help in getting over this mental hurdle about financial planning. So we're going to talk about some of these negative thoughts that people have, and maybe a way to kind of reverse that negative thinking into a way of looking at it on the positive side. We're going to help you be a glass half full instead of a glass half empty kind of person when it comes to financial planning. And Garrett, what's the first one that we've got here?
Yeah, Brice, as we talk to individuals and families, a lot of people do have some negativity about, saving, investing, that sort of thing. One of the first negative thoughts that we encounter is a saying that goes something like this. Brice, I just don't earn enough to save or really invest with any regularity. And it's just not something that I think is even in the cards for me. And, I think that we would push back, and I guess I'll kind of start on this topic, that a lot of saving and investing is about forming new habits. And so even small amounts, $10 a week, $100 a month, something small like that, where we probably are spending that indiscriminately elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And if we just dedicated that, I'm going to invest or save for myself, and kind of almost treat it like a reward for yourself, you feel good about the transaction, even though you're giving up whatever that sum of money is for potential other spending. And you know that you're starting to build through compound interest, even if it's just something inside of a simple CD or an interest-bearing account like a money market account, something really basic to get you started. Once you start seeing that account start to grow over the coming months, and certainly after a couple of years, then it kind of becomes almost like a little treat that you look forward to looking at that new statement every
Exactly.
Yep. And that you get that positive reinforcement.
Yeah, I liken it to if you're trying to lose weight, you think, I've got this long way to go. This is never going to work out. But once you lose those first couple of pounds, then you realize, hey, this can be done and whatnot. And then you're a little bit more motivated to keep seeing that scale go down.
Exactly.
All right, very good. Well, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Wealth Guardian Show. And in the studio this morning is Brice Payne and Garrett Ray. And we're talking about transforming your money mindset in 30 days, taking a look at some negative thoughts people might have around financial planning, retirement planning, and somehow flipping that on its head to where it's a positive thought. So we talked about the first one there. I don't earn enough to save or invest. Garrett, the next one we want to talk about, the negative thought is taxes. Taxes are so complicated and they just eat up my income. So again, I guess you're thinking, well, then, what's the point in financial planning with all these taxes?
Yeah.
So what do we got here with this one?
Well, nobody enjoys paying taxes, but, one of the things that we can do when we look at just the tax code is that there are lots of different opportunities within the tax code that do allow us opportunities to save and, look forward to retirement. When we talk about our retirement accounts, they have some special tax considerations that, if we are active in them and we contribute to them, then okay, we get a deduction when we file on our income taxes the following spring that we get to enjoy. So yes, the act of paying taxes for almost everyone is not the most pleasant thing. But if we look and see, okay, what inside the actual tax code is to our advantage or something that we could utilize that we're just simply leaving on the table or leaving off the table, then we understand that, okay, if we just had a little bit more knowledge around the tax code, we can see the positives and the silver lining there where it can work in our favor.
Yep, absolutely. And speaking of taxes, we will be having our taxes and retirement seminar coming up. We're not going to announce the dates yet, but tune in next weekend and we will have those dates secured and tell you how you can attend that seminar that we do once or twice a year on taxes and retirement. All right, let's go to the third one here, Garrett. A negative thought is, I'm terrible with money because I made bad choices. Whew. Yeah. What's a positive way of looking at this?
Yeah. I mean, I'd say if anybody was being completely honest with you, we've all made one or two financial decisions that we look back upon and we kind of regret, or maybe would have done things differently. The key important factor here is not to get bogged down in what the mistake was. Mm-hmm. It's to understand, okay, I made this mistake, not going to do that again. And it's basically the life lesson that you learned.
Yes.
Maybe you bought that Corvette when you had no business for 7 years old, right? It's something to that effect. I'm sure we can all relate. Or you bought that, subscription to that fancy gem that you just didn't go to and was a money pit. There's all types of decisions that we can go back and look and just say, hey, this is a life lesson, not doing that again. And at the end of the day, it wasn't really that important. It's kind of interesting when you start really talking to someone or you start talking to a family pretty quickly. They can land upon the things that are very important to them or to the family. And then there's a lot of extra fluff that they could probably do without. And you can kind of change behavior patterns that way.
Oh, yeah. That's one of the main things that I had to teach my son, Ed, over and over again growing up was, what did we learn? It's okay to make a mistake as long as you're learning something from that mistake.
Yeah.
If you make the mistake and you didn't learn anything from it, then we're going to make that mistake again. So yeah, that's definitely a way to go ahead and change our mindset around having made bad choices. As long as you learn something from it, and that certainly applies to everything, including retirement planning or financial planning. I think we've got time for one more here in this segment, Garrett. Let's move on to this negative thought. Budgets are restrictive and they make life boring. And, that's probably one of the bigger ones that we have to work with clients around when they come to sit down with us as financial planners, is getting them to understand budgets.
Yeah. And, it is sometimes difficult for us to get into this mindset. But one of the mindsets that I use is treat your individual bank accounts or your investment accounts, or if we're talking about a family, your family, savings, your family investment accounts, almost like your own personal business. Right? Nobody has a higher interest in your family or yourself than yourself or your family. So treat it seriously like such. If you're looking at things that were maybe decisions, if we're going back to the last one, maybe some poor financial decisions that we made, okay, you learn from that. and you pivot and you come up with a different action. And understanding the cash flow of the house, it can be difficult. It can be difficult to put pen to paper and say, okay, we're paying this amount to the auto insurance company, we're paying this amount to the electric company, and we're paying this amount to the natural gas company. And, between my salary and my partner's salary, we've got this coming in. That can be a lot of work, but once you do it, it's very eye-opening.
Yep.
And you're like, holy cow, we are actually spending money on this, and we had no clue, or at least we didn't track it very well. And I'll let you guys in on a little bit of a secret. Us financial planners, we have to go through this exercise every few years too, because here's the other thing. If you put together a budget when you're, say, age 45, and you don't look at it again until the kids move out of the house when you're age like 60, 62, my guess is your expenses have changed quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
And so you've got to adjust that budget as life throws us curveballs. And we know life is going to throw us a curveball. Your budget is going to look different pre-retirement versus post-retirement.
Right.
So this is something that just takes kind of a healthy monitoring of the household or the individual. And it's something that you don't have to do it every single month or every single year even, but periodically, every few years, we need to be refreshing this and just taking a fresh look with fresh eyes, fresh new life situation, and understand what's going on in the household. And then once you get that information, the takeaway from it is very satisfying. And I would just encourage people, go ahead, spend that hour or two, put pen to paper, and you're going to learn a ton.
You are. And once you've got it done, it'll be easier for you to do it year after year, or as often as you're going to do it. It'll be much easier. All right, well, we got to take a break here, as we always do. And what do we do before that break? We ask Garrett a trivia question. And Garrett, you are a studier, like I am, of history to some degree. And I think a lot of your study on history revolves around military history.
Okay.
More history.
Sure.
So that's what this is going to be about here. So put on your tactical hat for this one, Garrett. On February 20th, 1944, U.S. bombers attacked Germany in a bombing campaign now known as Big Week. Okay, Big Week. Thinking tactically, Garrett, what were our bombers targeting? Okay, stick around for the answer to that question and see if we stumped Garrett on the other side of this short break. This is Brice Payne. With me is Garrett Ray. The show is The Wealth Guardians, helping you retire the job and keep the paycheck. And this is News Talk 94.5 WPTI. And this is 96.7 FM TOB. News Talk 94.5 WPTI, 96.7 FM WTOB. Welcome back to the Wealth Guardian Show, where we help you retire the job and keep the paycheck. I'm Brice Payne in the Wealth Guardian studio this morning, along with Garrett Ray. And in this segment, we're going to continue our discussion around transforming your money mindset in 30 days. Now, before we answer the trivia question that we left you hanging with at the end of the last segment, I want to ask you this. Are you planning to retire? Okay. Have you met with a retirement income certified professional who's also a fiduciary? If not, here I am. I'm inviting you to take us up on a complimentary review of your current situation. As certified retirement planning specialists, we'll put together a customized written plan with strategies for portfolio allocation, income distribution, Social Security filing, and tax mitigation strategies, with the additional benefit of often reducing both the risk and fees of your current plan. So if you put aside at least $400,000 and you want to take us up on this no-cost, no-obligation review of your situation, give us a call at 336-391-3409. That's 336-391-3409. You can also visit us at thewealthguardians.com. That's thewealthguardians.com to learn more. Let us show you in black and white how to retire the job and keep the paycheck. All right, here we go. Let's get to this trivia question so we can get back on our main topic. Garrett, you've had some time to think about it here. Here's our trivia question. On February 20th, 1944, this is World War II, U.S. bombers attacked Germany in a bombing campaign now known as Big Week. Thinking, that kind of reminds me of Shock and Awe. Thinking tactically, what were our bombers, what would they have been targeting?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this one. You have to give the Germans credit for their manufacturing expertise during that war. And so targeting their railroad depots and any of their manufacturing facilities for tanks and airplanes certainly was our target.
There we go. Think about that. Listen to how Garrett logically gets to the answer of that. We were targeting their aircraft manufacturing centers is what we were hitting.
Yep.
And somebody else might out there, and I'm going to give you credit for this. If you said this, is that, well, we also would have been hitting their harbors wherever their ships were.
Sure.
We did that prior to this one. So that was the first thing that we did. I never said this was the first thing that we targeted, but what was big week around. But if you also answered, well, we would have hit their harbors like Pearl Harbor had been hit. We already did that, so that answer wins as well. So good job on either of those answers. All right, let's go ahead and get back to this now. We're talking, continue our conversation here about transforming your money mindset in 30 days. And we're taking a look at a negative thought that somebody might have when it comes to preparing for retirement or financial planning and turning that on its head to where it's a positive instead of a negative. Mm-hmm. So we got through about 4 of them in the last one. So here we go with number 5. The negative thought, Garrett, is I'm too late to start saving for retirement. How would we spin this thought on its head?
Well, unless you're already retired and you have absolutely no plan or savings to speak of, then it's definitely not too late. Now, I understand that people may feel like they're behind the 8 ball, or, hey, I didn't get around to seriously looking at this until I turned 50 or maybe 55.
Welcome to the club. If that is your mindset, welcome. You're in the majority.
Right. And it makes logical sense for most people because what happens around those ages? Well, you probably have a kid or two leaving the house, right? They graduated high school, or maybe they just graduated college. And now you're starting to focus on what is the next big thing I need to accomplish. For a lot of people, that's looking down the road 10 to 15 years. Hey, I'm getting ready to retire soon. So then coming up with an action plan that, again, for most people, starting simply and starting small, but being dedicated to it, putting in a certain amount a month, opening up a brokerage account, opening up an IRA if we don't have one, taking a look at your 401k contributions that you may have through your employer. All of that is very simple steps that you can take 10, 15 years out from, hey, I'm physically leaving my job at 65. And you can make up a lot of ground.
You sure can.
Going back to the tax code, our tax code even allows catch-up years.
Yep.
Once you turn age 50 or older, and you get a little bit additional incentive and help, even through our tax code, to basically catch up for lost time that may have slipped away. So there's always a chance, as long as we realize where we are, then you can take action to improve your situation. That's always the way I would look at it.
Better late than never would be the common idiom that would fit with this. And if you think it's too late now, well, let's look at it this way. Isn't it going to be later next year?
Yes.
So it's going to be all the much harder, right? So let's go ahead and start this before it gets even harder. All right, so that's our first one. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Wealth Guardians Show with Doug Ray. In the studio this morning is Garrett Ray and myself, Brice Payne, talking to you about how to transform your money mindset, taking those negatives and turning them into positives. So the next one we've got here, Garrett, is the negative thought is investing is too risky and too complicated. Now, we see this one, and that's probably one of the main reasons that somebody comes to a financial planner is they don't want to have that monkey on their back. They want to turn it over to a professional.
Sure. Yeah, and I think, my response to that would be, well, sometimes it can be. And, folks on Wall Street are very famous for coming up with complicated phrases and different acronyms that make it seem like it's difficult to understand when really, oftentimes you just need to kind of scale back the approach there and come up with very simple to understand instructions and a plan that can get people on board with the end goal. One of the things I think we do here really well, Brice, is educate people about their current situation and what could be. By taking down just a couple facts and information over a few meetings, we can really kind of strip away all the noise from the family's financial situation and say, okay, here's where you're at today. Here's where we think that things can improve upon, but it's going to take step A, B, and C to get there. And oftentimes, with a plan of 3 to 4 concrete steps and action items, we can get people on a much improved track.
That's absolutely correct. Yeah. Investing can be very complicated, but only if you make it so.
Absolutely.
Investing can be quite easy. And, unless you're really a professional at it, those complicated strategies don't necessarily have a much better track record than a simple strategy like investing in the S&P 500.
100%. I mean, for all the layers of complexity that you could act, you get diminishing returns almost. You might eke out another percentage or two on rate of return over someone who's following just a very simple, easy to understand investment plan that most people could do with maybe some coaching from a financial planner over the course of a year or two.
Yeah. And, we are financial planners here, holistic financial planners. And portfolio allocation is one of the things that we help our clients with, but that's only one of about 12 things or so. I went and made a list of all the things categories that we help clients with. And portfolio allocation is one of them, and it's not a small one. But you can basically divide up a financial planning conversation into two main categories. One of them is portfolio allocation, including in that distribution strategies. But the other one is tax mitigation strategies.
Sure.
Yeah, you want to earn as much as possible, but you also want to keep as much from Uncle Sam's hands when you do earn it, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't do you any good. Like, it's kind of like an offense and a defense on a team. It doesn't do you any good to stack all the pros on your offense and then not worry about your defense at all, right? Okay. So that's paying Uncle Sam as a defense. You want to have a good defense to keep as much money with you as well. So if this is something that interests you, you might think, oh, well, I've got portfolio allocation down. I don't need a financial planner. Well, if you don't know about how to mitigate all your taxes and whatnot and pay Uncle Sam as little as possible, then you probably still want to talk to a financial planner.
Sure.
And that's what we do here. So if you'd like to sit down with us and go through our planning process, there's no cost or obligation to do it. And our phone number is 336-391-3409. That's 336-391-3409. You can also visit us at our website, thewealthguardians.com, to see how we might be able to help you better prepare for retirement. Okay, Garrett, I think we got time for one more here. Let's go to this one. Insurance is just another expense.
Yeah, well, I guess I would answer this question, and it could be I would say this is actually fairly rare where we see an individual or a family that's over-insured. But by and large, if you have the right kind of insurance and the right policy or policies, then you have to think about what insurance is providing for you. It's providing for you a safety net and peace of mind. Mm-hmm. If something happened that we definitely don't want to have happen to us, if in the event that were to occur, then I'm covered up to a certain point. Mm-hmm. Now, there can be cases where you're completely covered, and that, you can make an argument, is the juice worth the squeeze of paying that kind of premium? But oftentimes we're looking at the right level of insurance for the right situation that's going to give us peace of mind so that if something did happen to us, it's not cleaning our clock.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And, there's a lot of different types of insurances out there. And if you have some and maybe you're wondering, should I still be paying toward this? We can help you get the answer to that. I mean, there's all types of insurance out there. One that I'm particularly fond of is when I'm at the blackjack table and the dealer is showing an ace, I'm going to go ahead and buy insurance on that because it's probably a face card on the other side there. All types of insurance out there. And you want to make sure that the type that you've got, it actually works for you. And if you don't have something, ask yourself, insurance, what is the problem that I'm trying to solve here? Then there's probably a type of insurance that'll help you solve that.
That's right.
Garrett, do we have time for one more? I'm not sure that we do. We'll just toss this one out there real quick. Mm-hmm. The negative thought is money is stressful and the root of my problems.
Yes. I mean, I would just say that money should be viewed as a tool.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And it's kind of like the phrase that not everything requires a hammer for that nail.
I love that. I love that phrase.
It just, having money is you want to have enough of it, but there can be something called excess where it just is stressful both ways. Mm-hmm. Not having enough, and sometimes
that's absolutely right. That's absolutely right.
Our job is to try and help families find that kind of Goldilocks spot where it's just perfect, right? You've got a plan in place, your basic needs are taken care of. Yes, we can have some fun and go live your life.
And as a tool. And I think one of the things that when somebody goes through our planning process with us and they decide that they want to become a client and implement whatever plan we put together, a lot of them will say that they are so glad that they've done that, so they feel that monkey off their back now, that there was a certain amount of stress that they are now glad they put it in professionals' hands. Well, you know what? That's all the time we've got here. Thank you, Garrett, for joining me. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have this week. We want to thank you for joining us. We hope the rest of your weekend is everything you want it to be. This is Brice Payne, along with Doug Ray and Garrett Ray. The show's The Wealth Guardians, helping you retire the job and keep the paycheck. And remember, sound financial plans do not create themselves. This is News Talk 94.5 WPTI. And this is 96.7 FM WTOB.